Kia ora, and welcome to the Beer Jug Beer of the Week Drink Along, where this week we are drinking a beer from Pacific Coast, Cross Step. I'm Luke, and I had surgery on my vocal cords the other day, so I'm going to try not to speak much. Luckily for us though, we have Matt
Hi.
from Pacific Coast here to join us. So I'm just going to ask you some leading questions, and you do the chatting.
All right.
Hi Matt, who are you?
I'm Matt. I used to be Matt from Beer Jug. Now I'm Matt from Pacific Coast. And
Good to have you back.
So I look after a bunch of stuff for Pacific Coast, sales and marketing mostly, while our head brewer Sam takes care of the brewing the beer. We're a relatively new brewery up in Mungawhai, about an hour and a half north of Auckland on the east coast, and we're putting out a bunch of different beers and exploring what we can do.
And I see from the blurb on the can that Pacific Coast brew for the thrill of flavour.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like, it's all about delivering great flavors. We've got some stuff that's traditional, some stuff that's a bit more innovative and experimental. Sam is a guy who really likes to play with flavor, play with ingredients, try new processes to try and get the most out of the brewing process.
Well, it's a location that lots of watchers will know as being a beautiful place to go on holiday. A lot of places people might live up there or have holiday homes. Can they come and drink beer at your venue?
Not yet, we're working on it.
Very exciting. So this is a lager. How many standard drinks is this can?
One.
Okay.
So traditionally, you go back 10, 15, 20 years, basically every beer that you could get with 4% was 4%. So what we're looking at is considering 4% as a full strength beer, but one that you can sit around, you can have a six pack of, whereas a lot of six pack beers that you see around in New Zealand at the moment, kind of, especially as you get older and as you're kind of less kind of looking for those high ABVs and the double IPAs, which we also do, but you want a beer that you can just have a session on while not compromising on flavour. And for us, that's that 4% is a platform which really allows you to do that. It's one standard drink per can, but there's enough body from the malt, from the alcohol there to really be a platform to let flavours shine.
So you're doing a few beers at 4%?
Yeah, so at the moment, I think we've got 6 beers at 4%. We've got this lager, we have a Pilsner, an XPA, a hazy, a sour, and a coffee black ale. Some of those are keg only, so you won't be able to get them, but some of them are coming out in 6 packs as well.
Cool. What is a cross step?
Cross step is a surfing move where you kind of walk down the board, kind of crossing your feet. It's a move that's designed for longboards, but I'm not a surfer. I can't even stand up on a surfboard, let alone do a cross step on one. So.
Sounds radical. Is this beer lagered?
Yes, it is. It's been in a conditioning tank on the yeast for quite a long time before packaging. I think this was packaged. When was that packaged? Yeah, so that had about 4 months lagering before it was packed. So a really long conditioning time, and you can kind of see that in the clarity that you're getting from that beer and the delicacy of the flavour profile. However, I think the leading question there was it is not actually brewed using a traditional lager yeast. Mm-hmm. While it's lagered in process, as in the German term to store, and that allows the beer to condition and develop a really kind of polished flavour profile. It was actually fermented with Kveik yeast. Kveik is a yeast which actually ferments warmer than ale yeasts rather than cooler, as is traditional for a lager yeast. But it brings a really nice fruit profile, which we want to get that while still maintaining that the clean fermentation. So you're getting kind of big fruit characters that's supported by the Southern Cross hops that we use in there, so New Zealand hops. An underused New Zealand hop, actually, offering its reserve just for bittering edition, but we have some in the whirlpool here, which kind of brings out a really nice kind of soft fruit flavour profile, while still sitting inside the bounds of what you'd expect from a easygoing smashable lager.
Well, Kveik's really interesting. It's something that a lot of brewers and home brewers were really excited about a few years ago when it sort of exploded on the scene, thanks to Lars Garsholt doing a lot of really great work up in Scandinavia. And there were, I suppose, 3 varieties that have become commercially available. of which Voss is probably the most popular.
Voss, I think, is the one that you see the most around. It's definitely the one that I've seen used the most. The others being what, Hornedal and Opshaug. Are those?
Perhaps Hornedal definitely is one of the more popular ones.
Opshaug is one, but I'm not sure which would be the most popular. But Voss is what we've used here.
And these are genus of yeast that were sort of rediscovered in Norway, and they were used for Scandinavian farmhouse brewing. So really interesting looking at the history of yeast rings and just how these brewers would make pretty tasty beers in very, very challenging conditions. So what a lot of brewers got really excited by was the ability of this Quake yeast to work in all kinds of conditions and all kinds of temperatures.
Yeah, well, it ferments fast, hot, and clean, which is great from a production standpoint and from a flavour standpoint. You get a really nice polished fermentation in a fraction of the time that traditional fermentations take. And depending on how you treat the yeast, you can get really strong fruit flavours coming through. A lot of brewers are using these kind of yeasts in hazy IPAs, traditional IPAs, for that. But yeah, it's really interesting, that kind of fermentation temperature, which is completely outside, like you're talking 30 degrees plus, when normally you're kind of wanting to sit around 20. And I've heard of fermentations going up to 40 degrees. I don't think we got that high, anywhere close to that high. But yeah, really actually like not just warm, hot fermentations, which still produce clean beers, which is a really interesting thing, especially when you're looking at what's the word I'm looking for? Sustainability of it. You use a lot less power trying to keep the beer cold, and fermentation is an exothermic reaction, so the yeast produces heat. Normally brewers will go to quite a bit of expense running their refrigerant, their glycol units, to bring that beer, control the temperature during fermentation, which uses a lot of energy. Whereas with Voss, you're able to actually let it run, save on that energy while still producing a clean result.
And a few years ago, we used to do the Beer Jerk podcast, which has been on an extended hiatus. But in one of the episodes, I interviewed our friend Mike Cheer, and he talked quite a bit about his trip to Norway and exploring some of the breweries up there that are using Craig yeast. So that's an interesting listen. If anyone want to find out a little bit more, go and dig out the Beer Jerk podcast on anywhere you can get podcasts. This is a smooth lager.
Yeah, really smooth. And kind of as I touched on, with our core range of products at Pacific Coast, we are really kind of targeting that smoothness, drinkability, sessionability, easygoing, but still full flavour. There's a lot of character in there, and really that's the story across that core range, that 4% core range that I was talking about with the Dunes XPA, Heatwave Hazy, and Beach Break Pilsner. That are all those 4%ers. The idea is being smooth, being drinkable, being just easy and flavourful.
It's a pretty smashable beer. I imagine you're going to sell quite a few kegs of this up at the beach, summertime drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about if I'm a fan of Pacific Coast drinks, but I want to drink something that has higher ABV than 4% and perhaps isn't beer?
Well, if you want to drink something that's higher than 4% and it also isn't beer, we have just released our spirits range. So Pacific Coast, we are Pacific Coast Drinks, so we do more than just beer. Our distillery launched in December, putting out our first two products, which were our Old World Gin and our New Zealand Gin. And just this week, we've also released our New World Rum. So our Old World Gin, it's a really classic botanical gin, led by juniper, coriander, cardamom, citrus peel, cinnamon. Really kind of a spice-forward, traditional botanical gin, slightly off-dry, so a little more sweetness and body than you get from some of your mainstream gins, which kind of adds to that mouthfeel and the profile in the gin and tonic. Our New Zealand gin features kawa, pine needles, and native kelp, so really focusing on the flavours that you get from those native botanicals. Kind of got an aroma like a walk in the bush, a little bit of salinity from that kelp, and leaning onto a much more herbal flavour profile. And then our white rum, which is brand new on the market. It's a really exciting thing about that is that as a brewery we're able to do a more interesting and complex wash than some of the rum distilleries who don't have access to all the tools that we have. So it's actually a combination of molasses and barley in the wash there, and we've used a lot of specialty malt to bring out some extra character than you normally get from a white rum. So really kind of rich burnt sugar character, some of that kind of dark malt kind of toastiness, bit of kind of pear drop, a little bit of banana from the ferment. So it's a really, it belies its kind of colour by being kind of a rich and characterful rum as well.
Thanks for that, Matt.
You're welcome.
And if you want to discover more tasty things, here at the Fridge and Flagon on Saturday, we are hosting NanoFest, which is Summer NanoFest. We decided to do NanoFest once every season, and it's our regular festival where we celebrate the smallest and most interesting, innovative brewers around the country. So it's going to be a pretty amazing lineup. Our mate DJ Apparel Spritz will be spinning vinyls in the beer garden, and it'll be a really good time. So come join us for a beer or two, 12 till 8 this Saturday, Summer NanoFest. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Luke.
See you next time.
And if you want more cross step, it's in the Beer Jerk Variety 12 pack at the moment. Grab one.
Good idea.